Hello everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Rothfeld, and here are several things to pay attention to for the upcoming trading week. Now, this is going to be an exciting week. Maybe not as exciting as last week, right? Last week you had Tuesday's reporting of Tesla, Wednesday's reporting of Meta, Thursday's reporting of Microsoft and Google. A lot of volatility with the earnings front, plus you had that massive core PCE price index number on Friday, you had GDP on Thursday. It was a wild week for economic data. Can I compete with that? Can I top it? Well, I don't know if I have as many heavy hitters, but I have a lot more companies reporting earnings this week. So let's start there with our earnings calendar. 1,228 companies reporting earnings this week. That's almost double what we saw last week, although some smaller names. We start things off with a couple semiconductor companies on Monday. That's going to be NXP and ON Semiconductors. You have Welltower and MicroStrategy. Now, I, for one, am very interested to see what happens with MicroStrategy. They're one of the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. And Bitcoin, really for the past month or so, has kind of been traversing sideways, not doing too much. But what does their balance sheet look like? Is the increase in Bitcoin we've seen in the previous quarter, what impact has it had on their numbers? And we'll get a clue as to that on our Monday release from MicroStrategy. But there's so much more to talk about. Let's move on to our Tuesday session, which brings in one of the bigger names in the Magnificent Seven. Of course, last week we had Meta and Tesla, Google, Microsoft. Well, Tuesday brings you Amazon, you have Eli Lilly, Coca-Cola, AMD, McDonald's, Starbucks, and Mondelez reporting earnings. We kick things into high gear on Wednesday with MasterCard, Qualcomm, Pfizer, you have Airbus, CVS, and MetLife. And then we, drum roll please, the second largest component of the NASDAQ 100 as well as the S&P 500 will be reporting earnings, and that, my friends, is the good old Apple reporting on Thursday after close. You also have Novo Nordisk, you have ConocoPhillips, Amgen, Booking, and Cigna. And to round out the week on Friday, we have a couple more. You have Berkshire Hathaway, Hershey's, and then Cheniere Energy, natural gas leader there. So a ton of really big names reporting here. Rounding out our Magnificent Seven, I think we've only got a couple left. You've got NVIDIA and Netflix, I believe, are the last two to report here. Other than that, the major names that of the tech sector have reported. So keep your eye on that earnings calendar. And again, I have not shown them all. Look, I've only got like 20 up here on the screen. There are over 1,220 to report this week. So make sure you check that earnings calendar so that you don't get caught off guard. Okay, of course, last week our economic data was robust, right? We had GDP numbers to look at. We had all sorts of inflation data with the core PCE price index and many other data points. This week we don't have as many, but we do have a very targeted segment, which is going to be on the employment data. So let's start things there and look at the job situation. What do the employment data show you for the U.S. markets? We start things off on Wednesday at 8:15 a.m. with the ADP non-farm employment change. Right after that, at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, you have Jolts job openings, kicking things to our normal Thursday release at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That is the unemployment claims. And finally, you have the unemployment rate and non-farm employment change happening on Friday at 8:30 a.m. This is going to be an important one. As you know, Jerome Powell has made it a point talking about inflation and jobs. Now, jobs have not been an issue, but there's a lot of feeling, including from Jerome Powell and the Fed, that the unemployment rate is going to be increasing here. And this will give us a clue as to, are they right? Is Jerome Powell and the FOMC on with their targets that says unemployment is starting to rise? Well, that will kick off for a very volatile Friday. And of course, that by itself could create an exciting Friday trading session. But what we also have is Thursday night, Apple reporting earnings, which means the excitement will parlay into Friday morning's open. So be very careful. Friday morning could be a very exciting and volatile day, just like last Friday was with that core PCE price index and Microsoft and Google's earnings. All right, now let's look at the biggest piece of the week. Actually, I don't know if it's the biggest. I could probably say that the Amazon and Apple is the biggest pieces for the week, but there's another monster piece which people are expecting and looking at very closely, and that is going to be central banks. What is our central bank going to do with our rates going forward? So that announcement is coming out Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, the expectations are we are going to stay right where we're at 5.5%. As of the recording of this video, there was a 93.6% probability we're going to see things stay right where they're at, which means we got about a 6.4% chance of a cut at this meeting on Wednesday. Now, most people are in agreement that we'll probably stay right where we are at at this exact moment. Why cut right now when there's so much uncertainty about inflation, jobs, and the economy? They'll probably keep it right where it's at. Now, what's more important is what happens after this, right? So at 2 p.m. Eastern time, the announcement comes out on Wednesday, but at 2:30, Jerome Powell gets in front of a bunch of reporters. He issues a little bit of a report, and then he gets grilled from the media about inflation, forecasts, expectations, jobs, all the juicy details that most of us really want to know about. I encourage everyone to watch that. Yeah, it's about an hour, hour and a half, and sometimes it gets boring. But you can start to see his sentiment, his words, how he positions, what the Fed's thinking is that you don't really get a clear indication of when you just hear the rate statement. Oh, we stayed the same. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean going forward? What's the dot plot, right? What does the economic projections look like, or what they call it the SEP, the Summary of Economic Projections, look like for the Fed? And that might give you more clues as to where this market's going to be going over the next few months, maybe next quarter, and how you position yourself in your portfolio. So a lot of stuff to think about this week. Predominantly, it's going to be about those major two names, Amazon and Apple, but you also have that really important jobs data number coming out on Friday, as well as a Wednesday announcement of the Fed. A lot to think about. Be careful out there. There's going to be a lot of volatility. That, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next week.